Hello, my little pretties. It's your mistress, the Queen of Lions here, and today I am going to be talking about another movie on our next episode of episode 3 of Shadows Pretties podcast. Now, you'll probably see on my community tab of what my next episode should be, either Tarzan or me talking about The Lion King. So most people have voted for me to talk about The Lion King. Yes, I am going to be talking about the remake that came out in 2019, and I will be talking about the original movie that came out in 1994. Now, with the remake, before I get started, is that the plot and everything is pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same, except there are a few differences compared to the original movie. But before I talk about the remake, I'm just basically going to say I'm not going to go too much into detail of the remake, because it's the same plot as the original movie. So, I'm going to, get started with this. Now, first of all, before I get started with this, if you guys have not seen The Lion King, then I highly recommend you check out The Lion King movie. I did review the remake and the original movie, but in this, we're just going to dive into more into the characters and stuff like that. So basically, in the movie, we have the main characters like Simba, who was a cub born to Sarabi and Mufasa. Sarabi is Simba's mother, and also, besides she's queen of the Pride Lands, she's Mufasa's mate. Now, Simba's dad's name is Mufasa, we all know from the original and the remake of The Lion King. For most of us who have not seen The Lion King in a long time, it's a really good movie when you watch the original movie. The remake is okay too, I know some people don't like the remake, but the fun facts I am going to be, explaining is that it is during a period as known as the Disney Renaissance, and of course, it has a screenplay credit to some people, but of course there is original songs that were written and by a composer and a lyrics like Tim Rice, and of course the Hans Zimmer did the score. Now we do have a few songs from it, like "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" and all that. That song is actually played at the end credits by Elton John. Elton John sang a few songs for The Lion King, one of them being Circle of Life, I Just Can't Wait to Be King, and Can You Feel the Love Tonight. Now, we all know Elton John is a really amazing person. He probably made Lion King to be the best movie of our childhood. Now, I am going to be giving guys, a little bit of facts before I dive into the movie to wrap it up. Not wrap it up, but kind of refresh your memory if you haven't seen The Lion King in a long time. And then I will be, talking about, the remake of what is different in the remake. Now, in this one, it tells a story about Simba, who is a young lion, who is his father named Mufasa as the king of the Pride Lands. So, this story takes place in a kingdom of lions in Africa. And of course, this is actually based on the story of William Shakespeare's story of Hamlet. Now, this is actually based on the Hamlet story, except, it's kind of like an inspiration from the Hamlet story. But, they changed everything because, everything, it's all over the place. Now, the Hamlet story, I might talk about that maybe in the next podcast. I will talk about the Hamlet story when I look into it more, but we're gonna get into The Lion King. Now, this is obviously, about, Scar being the shadow of Mufasa. Mainly, he's trying to, wanting to be king, but ever since Mufasa and Sarabi had Simba, he can't be king unless he kills off Mufasa and Simba. He succeeded on doing this by killing Mufasa, but Simba gets exiled, and we will be getting more into that. Mainly because ever since Simba was born, Mufasa has been spending more time with his son and teaching him the ways of being king. And we do see, Simba, playing with his playmate, or who he becomes mates with later, named Nala. So at this moment, Simba takes Nala to the elephant graveyard, so he could prove himself that he's not a young cub anymore. But however, Mufasa, tells Simba that he disobeyed him, and after the hyenas try to attack Simba and Nala, Mufasa comes in to save them. And of course, the hyenas in both movies are working for Scar. Now, I can definitely say, the hyenas in the original is actually have names like Shenzi, Banzai, and Ed. But in the remake of it, Shenzi is the only name that is still in there. Banzai and Ed's names have been changed, which I will get to that eventually. Now this movie, the development of The Lion King, began in 1988 during a meeting between this bunch of, people who were promoting Oliver and Company in Europe. And of course, the first scripts were writing, which of course it didn't work, and as the production began in 1991 when Pocahontas was in the works. Now, however, in this time is that the staff traveled to Hell's Gate National Park in Kenya to research the film settings and animals. So nearly on with it, they have wrote a few two scripts of they made 2 scripts of the movie. But however, the first 2 movies, one of them being The King of the Jungle and one of them being The King of Beasts or something, unfortunately, the scripts they wrote was really disturbing. Like, it includes maybe blood, gore, and possibly even stuff that is not for suitable children. So, obviously, I will be talking about the deleted scenes of The Lion King because I want you to understand a few of the deleted scenes of the original. Now, of course, Mufasa was king, and he does have a mandrill named Rafiki, who is like a kingdom shaman advisor. And of course, Scar wants to, take over the throne. So when he kills Mufasa in the stampede, he basically, says the last words to Mufasa, "Long live the king." So Mufasa dies from the stampede and blames it on Simba. So Simba ends up being exiled, and of course, Scar sends his hyenas to kill Simba, but unfortunately Simba gets away. So obviously Scar had thought that Simba was dead, so he takes over as king. But however, the way he's doing things is he's turned pretty much the whole Pride Lands into wasteland. So you probably look at it when Simba returns to the Pride Lands so he can challenge Scar. You can see that, everything is like the wasteland. It's kind of like, if you played the Fallout games, you would realize that, take a look at some of the scenes in the Fallout games and compare to the Pride Lands from when Scar was ruling. All of it, what's happening is just similar to same. Like, it's all destroyed, there's barely any life, basically. So, of course, this is when it gets to doing the next part of The Lion King. Now, of course, when Simba runs away, he ends up getting into, in the desert, and of course, he meets a meerkat and a warthog named Timon and... So, we have a warthog and a meerkat named Timon and Pumbaa. Of course, Simba grows up in the jungle living with his 2 friends, eating bugs and stuff like that. And of course, Simba learns the motto called Hakuna Mattata, which means no worries. Now, Simba becomes a young adult, and he meets his best friend Nala, who returns. So they do fall in love in the movie, and of course, Nala tries to convince Simba to come home, but Simba doesn't want to. So as Simba says he doesn't want to, he basically just doesn't. He's feeling guilty over his father's death. So he encounters Rafiki and tells him that Mufasa's spirit is living in Simba. So basically, Simba decides to return to the Pride Lands so he could challenge Scar and take his place as king. and realizing he can no longer run from his past. So, of course, Simba seeks past the hyenas and confronts Scar, who basically tried to kill Sarabi. So Sarabi realizes that Simba is there, and of course, Scar taunts him by Simba's role over, Mufasa's death, and backs him off the edge of the Pride Rock that he murdered Mufasa. So Simba ends up telling him to tell the rest of the Pride, which of course that was the case, and the fight between Scar and Simba all goes on. So Simba basically throws Scar out of the Pride Lands, or at least push him off of the rock. So basically, Scar survives, but of course he gets killed by hyenas. So of course they were overwhelmed to attempt to betray them. After Simba takes over the kingship as the rain begins to fall. So he makes Nala his king, and the Pride Land's restored to its usual state, and that is basically the Lion King. But of course then we continue on with the sequel, which I will make a sequel, podcast me talking about the sequel later on. So basically later on we see, that's the remake, the original Lion King movie. Now there are some deleted scenes in the original Lion King movie, like one of them being, Scar wants to make Nala his queen, but Nala refuses. Now there's a reason why, is that, they take the scene out because they were afraid it was, not child friendly. So it was kind of why that, they basically stopped. So it was one of those reasons that they basically didn't want to show it, is because of Simba. Because what Scar was doing is trying to do something really nasty to Nala, which I am not going to get into because it's really messed up. I can definitely say it's really messed up, and that's why they kind of took away the deleted scene. Now, there are other deleted scenes, like there was other songs, but the songs that are in there are like The Circle of Life, basically talks about the circle of life, which, we're born, we live, we die, that's a good lesson. Now, however, though, there is another song in the Lion King movie besides Be Prepared, besides Can You Feel the Love Tonight. Now, Can You Feel the Love Tonight is basically a song about, Simba and his mate Nala falling in love. And we do see in this movie that there's another song that was going to be in but was deleted, and that was called The Morning Report. That song was deleted, and they were originally going to add it in, but they didn't for some reason, which I'm afraid I don't know why. But that's just the case. Now we move on to the part where we see Simba singing I Just Can't Wait to Be King. It's basically him explaining, that he can't wait to be king of the Pride Lands. So, however, though, later on in the movie, we see that Simba, and Nala sing it when they try to lose Zazu. So Simba can take Nala to the elephant graveyard, which they were not supposed to. There is a song called Be Prepared, and it's about Scar, wanting to, plotting a plan to kill Mufasa and Simba as well. And of course we have the famous song Hakuna Mattata, which of course we already know it means no worries. So that is basically something I can definitely say about The Lion King. Now, I kind of wrapped up everything up for the original. Let's talk about the remake, which I'm not getting into the remake, because the remake, the plot is pretty much the same. It's just the same as the original movie, except, it's a little different. But, of course, we do know for a fact. Now, however, the cast is different, I can definitely say. And that the fact that there are nice casts, like Donald Glover as Simba, adult Simba, we have Beyonce as Nala, we have Seth Rogen as Pumbaa. But of course we get to the hyenas, and this is the major, kind of difference in the remake of The Lion King. Now, Shenzi's name is still there, but instead of Banzai and Ed, there are two other hyenas named Kamari and Azizi. So Azizi and Kamari are basically Banzai and Ed, which is kind of confusing. They could have just used those names. But I'm glad they used Shenzi's name, because if they didn't use Shenzi's name and they used some someone else's name, I would be more disappointed. Now, obviously, the differences between this movie, like the original and the remake of The Lion King, is that in the remake of Lion King, it's basically based on real lions. The lions don't have, feeling expressions. Like in the original Lion King movie, you see, the expressions on the characters. Of course, they obviously have that in the remake, the live-action remake, but you don't physically see it. That's the kind of the problem that a lot of people, I could probably understand. So then that, we can definitely say that in the second one, but I did hear rumors saying that they're going to remake the second movie, which in a live action movie, I think it's confirmed, but I don't know. But if you guys want to let me know, feel free. So now, the movie, I can have to say the remake was actually pretty interesting, well, to me. And of course, the production started around 2017. And they were going to get different cast members because most of them either died or they either retired or etc. But of course, we do have one of them right here that, of course, we ended up having James Earl Jones, who played the original character Mufasa in the original and the remake, which is a great blessing. Now, I did hear they were going to have someone else play as Mufasa. I can't remember which one they were going to have original person to play as Mufasa. But of course, I'm glad they have the original Mufasa actor, because if we didn't have James Earl Jones in the remake of this movie, the Lion King remake wouldn't be the same. But I'm really glad they did. Now, I did know that some of the actors did die from the original Lion King movie and they wanted to remake it. But of course, it was still pretty good. It's really interesting, like the lions look realistic and stuff like that, and it's a live action, so of course they use computer CGI for, a movie, like for movie fee at that. Now, I will be talking about The Lion King 2 in another video, so you guys are going to be pretty amazed with that. Alright, now I think I kind of, explained, much about it. Now, of course, this movie actually won for, like, the remake had won for the animated star of Beyonce being one of them. And of course, they got nominated and won a few stuff that I'm looking at. And I have to say, it was really good that James Earl Jones came back to do the remake of The Lion King for voicing Mufasa. Because if he didn't, then the remake of The Lion King just wouldn't be the same. And I'm glad, they used Mufasa, because, he was a really cool character, and the voice acting was really good for both movies. Now, I like two of the movies. I really do think that the original one is my most favorite, because, well, it's like, it's pretty good, but the remake is good itself. But if you don't like the remake, that's fine. I respect your opinion, but as long as you respect my opinion, we're good. Alright, I guess I'm going to wrap up this podcast, because this is as long as it is, because the reason why it's not long as the other ones is because, well, the remake there's not really much to talk about, because the plot is basically pretty much the same and stuff like that. But of course, this movie itself is actually really good. Now, if you've not seen the remake of Lion King, I highly recommend you see it. And if you haven't seen the original one, or if you haven't watched The Lion King in a long time, then I highly recommend you watch The Lion King, the original one, because it's really good and it's really amazing when you come to think about this story. Okay, I think I already wrapped up, so yeah, I want to thank you so much for, watching in this episode, of Shadows and Pretties. I highly recommend you sub to me if you are new to my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to ring the notification bell as well, so you guys will get notified to my latest updates. Like always, I will be seeing you all in episode 4 of the next podcast, where I'll be talking about Disney's Tarzan. See ya later.